Sticking with tariffs happening right now, the premiers and prime minister are meeting in Ottawa as the country grapples with the effects of Chinese and U.S. tariffs. Beijing imposing steep canola tariffs in response to Canada's levies on Chinese-made electric vehicles, steel and aluminum. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war escalated last week when Washington imposed 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. The meeting at the Canadian War Museum comes just days before Prime Minister Mark Carney is expected to launch a federal election campaign. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Liberal strategist Adam Vaughan. Adam, what do you expect to be Carney's message to the premiers today with an election call on the horizon?
Well, I think first and foremost is hang together. The Team Canada approach has paid some dividends. It hasn't gotten us quite through to where we need to be yet. But, you know, when you start to talk about divide and conquer, that's exactly what Trump is trying to provoke with some of his latest pronouncements. And I think that the message that the Prime Minister is trying to deliver to the premiers is that we're either in this together and we succeed, or we fall apart and we get played by Trump.
Now, Trump was once again talking about annexing Canada today. I want to play a quick clip.
It's just an artificial line that was drawn in the sand or in the ice. And can I tell Peter, just you add that to this country, what a beautiful landmass, the most beautiful landmass anywhere in the world.
Adam, do you think these annexation threats benefit one party's chances over another in this next election?
I hope not. You know, I think that if it does, you know, having our election decided by somebody who is not even from Canada is not necessarily where we need to end up as a country. But I think when you have premiers like Daniel Smith talking about, you know, sort of my way or the highway, if you don't do what Alberta wants, we're leaving, that kind of language opens up the space. When the Conservatives talk like that, it opens up the space for Trump to provoke us with that kind of language. When you call Canada broken endlessly and you talk Canada down and people start to get desperate about their futures because they don't think they have one, well, Trump plays on that. And so we have to be disciplined, we have to be smart, and we have to be, you know, united in terms of how we tackle one of the biggest challenges this country's ever faced.
Now, the feds launched a new ad campaign today promoting Canada to Canadians and also rolled out ads in certain U.S. red states. Do you think this appeal could make an impact in the trade war? And do you think something like this is necessary or helpful?
I was talking to somebody yesterday who has a home in the States and goes there for summers but drives with Canadian plates, and they're worried about whether or not their car will be vandalized. You know, things aren't normal, and reactions aren't normal, and sometimes the provocations, especially by Trump, bring the worst out of us instead of the strongest and the best out of us. I think that, you know, the Canadian government or any government sort of advocating a sort of stay home, help each other, invest, if you're spending tourist dollars, invest them in Canadian opportunities, you know, whether it's a cottage or a trip to Niagara Falls or a trip to the Shaw Festival or what have you. Think about how your spending can support industries that might be hurt by Americans not coming across the border this summer, and hopefully we hang together and create those jobs. But again, it's about supporting each other. It's about talking each other up. It's about talking about the values that Canada has and the opportunities and the wonder that our natural resources, our natural environment, our great cities provide for other Canadians as we welcome each other. Talking Canada down right now is playing into Trump's hands, and playing into Trump's hands will cost us all, our families, jobs, and that's just not on. So it's time to pull together, and I think that's the message that all Canadians are sharing with each other, but I think it's the one that the Canadian government is sharing with the advertising campaign.
I also want to ask you about Mark Carney's decision today to drop the capital gains tax hike that was proposed. Do you see that helping him attract voters? Is that an important issue in your opinion for this next election?
Look, a lot of policies over the last 5, 10, 15 years have been designed for a world that has established trade rules and a trading partner, in particular the United States, who's looking for consistency, for long-term stability. That's no longer the case. So a number of economic policies that are sort of trying to align Canada's economic opportunity with the obligations government have are going to have to be revisited. You know, people will be critical because it's change. Some will be critical because it didn't change. But at this time, it's time for adults in the room and strong economic leadership in Ottawa Ottawa to steer a steady course and give Canadians and Canadian businesses access to capital as we retool and take on a world that's not the same as it was even 6 months ago. So these are the sorts of things that are going to be revisited. Some political critics will jump all over it and call it a flip-flop. I think the wise thing to do right now is to make smart decisions that are the best interest of the Canadian economy in this current condition, and we can come back after the Trump presidency and after the trade wars ended, hopefully sooner than that, and figure out what is the right reset that needs to happen to make sure our tax policies are fair, but also support a growing, strong Canadian economy that is also tapped into the strengths of this country's investors and entrepreneurs.
That's Liberal strategist Adam Vaughan. Adam, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Have a good day.